Welcome to another edition of Open for Business, a show to learn about how other business owners are navigating these challenging times. I'm your host, Marjorie Young, coming to you from Bluffton, South Carolina. Our guests started their company during the Great Recession of 2009, and today they are faced with yet another challenge, how to pivot during COVID. Ian and Kathleen Duncan have a wholesale coffee roasting company. They also have a retail coffee shop with a drive-thru in Bluffton. Also today, we have two guests from an organization called SCORE. SCORE has been offering free mentoring to small business owners for over 50 years. Rod Casavant is the chair of the local SCORE chapter, and Mike Wetters is a SCORE business mentor that has been mentoring Ian and Kathleen. So thank you for being on Open for Business to share your story.
Thanks, Marjorie.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you, Marjorie.
Thanks for being here.
Ian and Kathleen, 2009, what a year to start a business. I need to hear how this happened.
I'll let Kathleen go first.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say let Ian go first, since as I see it, that's about the time that we met, and that's when we were friends to start with. But at any rate, we all had to kind of reassess what we were doing, diversify, and rethink about how we were going to build a life as we were both in our 20s trying to figure things out. And I think that's when the building blocks all started, really, for us in terms of how to re-navigate through a new world, which again, I think will equip us now to reassess how we're doing things and be agile in changing those things.
So Kathleen, were you all married at the time, or?
Nope. We literally met. We both had just lost our jobs the week before when we met.
What were you doing beforehand?
I was working in landscape architecture. Ian was working as a manager in landscaping.
Okay, so how did you end up owning a coffee shop, Ian?
So the idea of the grind kind of started back then, but we actually really didn't even start the business officially until 2016. I had worked in the coffee field, a part-time. I got into coffee in 2009. I had lost my job. Started working for another local business, kind of just as a barista. I mean, my first training session, I think, was like 2 hours long. And then it was like the owner left. And I was like, oh, I don't really know the difference between a latte and cappuccino. So I messed up a lot of people back then. But I learned the barista side of the business. And then I learned, had the opportunity to do a different company who wanted to start roasting their own coffee. I said, well, hey, I'll do it. Because what I learned in the coffee industry is roasting coffee is once you are in, you're in. There's not like, it's not like a brewer or something like that. You can kind of walk on and like learn how to brew beer. Like usually most companies have one roaster, maybe two or three, but that's like, it's a set position that people do for their entire lives.
I haven't been to the shop, but you have a roaster here?
Yes. So we have 2,200 square feet at our current facility. We went from a very, very small facility to the one we're in now. We started off in 700 square feet, I think. That was the entire building. And I took up probably 400 square feet of that for my roastery and a little like walk-in bar. And I shared space with two other entrepreneurs that were just starting their business. They were upstairs.
Right there?
Yes.
In space, co-oping.
Yes.
Is that a necessity or was that planned?
It was necessity. So none of us could really afford any of the rent really anywhere just for like an office space in Bluffton. And so we found this really cute little carriage house that was in a commerce park. Actually, it's probably, I don't know, half a mile from our location here. Looks like an old little house and had a upstairs on it. So the landlord kind of did put a staircase in for us so we could get upstairs. But the upstairs, which is still actually rented by those two guys that I stayed with. One does business coaching and the other one is a graphic and creative content company. They did our original logos and websites and stuff like that just to help us out to get themselves on the map. And then as we grew, they would bring clients in. You know, what client doesn't want to like walk in, get a fresh cup of coffee, see a roaster going, and then walk upstairs and smell that the whole time? So,
Ian, do you own the space or rent it, and how did you navigate that contract, and when did you pull in SCORE?
So we still rent. We rent here and we rented there. So we basically went. I became the primary leasee and just subleased to the guys. They weren't sure how their business was going to go. I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life, so I'm going to be here regardless of anything. So we started with that, and then I quickly grew, and so we had to navigate like me bringing in 150-pound bags of coffee one day, and they were guys were like, whoa, like where'd all this space go? And so we sort of talking this and that, we had to move out of that space. We had a 3-year lease. We had to move out after a year, just because we outgrew it. And so we just basically transferred the lease over to those guys. They're still there. Their staff has grown, so they've basically taken over the space. And it worked out really good. We're still friends. Those guys, they have one of the deals we worked out, because I'm in coffee, is that for doing my all my logos and my original website and stuff for free, those guys got coffee for life. So they basically walk in with their staff with a black card and just say, hey, I want a coffee. And we're like, okay, cool, here you go, you know. So, and they'll bring client meets in and into our shop now from their office. So it's been a really good relationship. So I think the big thing when starting the company was getting local relationships with other either like-minded businesses or just entrepreneurs and businesses saying, hey, we're here, we're trying to grow, and we know you're trying to grow, so let's try and like help each other out. So
one of the questions that I want to ask you after we talk about SCORE is, how are you pivoting with COVID and stuff like that? But I want to ask Rod, how did you guys first connect with Brian?
Well, Mike has been working with Ian and Kathleen, I guess, gosh, I don't even know. It's more than a year, predating COVID and the world we're in. So Mike can speak to that.
Okay.
I can talk all day long about SCORE and what we're doing. And you know, Marjorie, you mentioned that SCORE's been around a long time. And Ian and Kathleen, you may know that it actually started in '64. What's really cool is our Lowcountry chapter. So we're one of 300 chapters. We have clients, and we started in '89. So we're in our 31st year, this chapter. And what's really cool is the clients from years ago, before Mike and I were ever involved in SCORE, when our paths cross again, so we've got some of them coming back for help, and we helped them start their business 20 years ago. It's incredibly cool. And to find out how SCORE was so integral to their success then, and now they're facing new challenges, and we've got a new team. We do have a couple of folks who've been around on our team 15 years, but for the most part, we have a lot of new mentors, and but it's awesome to see these long-term client relationships. SCORE, the tagline on both Mike's and my card is for the life of your business, and that's what we're about. Help you start, help you have tremendous success, and when it comes that day that you want out and you want to sell for a ton of money, we're going to help you with that too. So that's my little commercial for SCORE. Mike can talk about how he's worked with Ian and Kathleen, but he's told me so many times that they're awesome clients. So I've been looking forward to meeting them virtually. Here we go.
Mike, how about you? How did you first connect, and what did they come to you about?
Well, you know, it actually was mainly the other way around, and I've been an admirer of their business from afar, right?
There you go.
And they didn't know it, but we would run into them at various venues, right? They didn't know that I was looking for. And one of the things in becoming involved in an organization like SCORE is you really want to learn as much as you can about how businesses, what makes them tick, how did they start. And so this was like I was just kind of gathering information that whenever I would come across them and buy their products or whatever. So this isn't so much about SCORE as it is about Ian and Kathleen and this business and their community values, what drives them. And what really kind of made it all come home to me was I actually met Kathleen working with another client, a SCORE client. And as she was beginning to talk more about their business, and she related some of the things that they're doing right around the end of last year, that's when things really happen in terms of how we could possibly be of assistance. So in that conversation, and then when COVID hit and the various aspects of the SBA loan, which Ian and Kathleen had pursued on their own, but when they told me the story about how they successfully pivoted, it was really a compelling story that we thought really people need to know about. So this is more about them doing their thing and becoming a successful business here, and where we can help. And as information we've been able to forward. So, but was what was so interesting to me was when people follow through on their value set and they become leaders in the community by doing what they do and draw people towards them. That was a real powerful example for small business.
Absolutely. Thank you.
When I did actually use SCORE in the very, very beginning, before I even launched my business, I sat down with a mentor at the, I think it was the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber building on the island, and just pitched my my business plan to those guys, and the guy that I can't remember his name now. This is probably 2015 actually, and I was working on getting funding. I'd been working on getting funding, and it was really interesting. And it's really kind of a change of events. So he was like, yeah, well, if you want to go eventually into grocery stores, this and that. My brain like, I'm never going to get that bag. Well, I'm in grocery stores now on the island. We're looking at Harris Teeter now as a vendor. And so it's just kind of full circle. I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, wow, like I met with him and he was pushing me farther than I even thought I was going to go 4 or 5 years down the road from my plan. And I put it into my plan, but I'm there. My plans, we're moving along. So other than a little bit of slow down from this, we're still basically right on track for where we want to be and how fast we want to grow. So
that
I was going to just say, just from an outside perspective, kind of watching Ian go through the process of building his business plan, I know getting realistic input on it of what was feasible and what processes and steps to take. Getting input back was difficult to begin with, and then getting ones that related to what he was doing and how he wanted to proceed. SCORE was very helpful, and knowing that we had that resource was hugely monumental to feeling equipped to be able to go down this path. So we're super thankful for SCORE being around in our community and having these mentors be available to us.
I don't think a lot of people realize that these mentors they do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And there's statistics out there that say if you're a small business owner and you have a mentor, you're going to make more money, period. So why wouldn't you have a mentor? So Rod, how do people get a mentor? What do they need to do?
Well, we get client requests and referrals from all sources, but in terms of the process, it's really easy. Just go to our website, say request a mentor. And it's a short little form, and we all see it. And you know what? Someone's going to see it quickly on our team and select that client. That's how it works. And I will say, and I've said this before, one of the really cool things that's going on now with our chapter, we're talking about businesses pivoting. We've done our own pivoting because we're pretty good when we sit down with the clients, and hopefully Ian and Kathleen would attest to that, in terms of providing them value and helping them with what they're trying to do and really help them accelerate towards success. There's all sorts of surveys on that, and if I can brag for a second, Marjorie, the last survey done at the end of last year, 2019, out of the 300 chapters across the country, we were ranked #1 in terms of what clients said about our chapter and our mentors in terms of helping them be successful. We're incredibly proud of that. But, so here's the but. We're not so good at getting to clients rapidly, quickly, when they request, like same day or within a day. It takes us a few days. So we've been working on how do we fix this? Because you got to do better. I'm going to brag on Mike for a second now. So when COVID hit, we made a decision. We got to have a subgroup of our 40-some mentors that are focused on helping clients who have COVID-related issues, and a lot of these were related to SBA loans, right? EIDL, PPP, et cetera. So Mike and I talked, I don't know, well over a month ago, 6 weeks ago, when it all hit. And we came up with this idea of forming this team, and we asked for volunteers. It eventually became our Rapid Response Tiger Team. Okay, that's a mouthful. But rapid response is key. Mike leads this team within our group. And here's the punchline. We have changed how we get to clients. When they request, so if it comes in, it's related to COVID stuff, they hear from a mentor within 24 hours, in many cases, same day. And it's awesome to see this because clients need that, right? These are kind of tough, they're incredibly challenging times. And we said, we got to be better at getting to them quickly and helping them. And Mike's led this effort, and I'm incredibly proud because we've been needing to get to this, and it's changed our culture. We pivoted, and we're not going to go back to a slow response time. So sorry for that little speech, but I wanted to share that.
Congratulations to SCORE. So Ian, what specifically have you and Kathleen had to do when COVID hit? Tell me what happened when you first learned that things were changing.
Yeah, so I was actually, funny enough or not, I was actually down in Florida the week before. We were actually getting ready to do another roasting operation down in Winter Garden, Florida. We've been approached by a developer who had our product up here, was doing sort of a similar kind of marketplace down in Winter Garden, and wanted us to come down. That is actually still in the works. It's just been pushed back a year now. But I was down there, and we started hearing stuff, and I was coming back like the day before St. Patty's Day, and I was driving back up, and I really was like listening just to like the radio and the news talk, and then I was like, wow, this is kind of getting serious. And the day after I got back was basically everything kind of just hit the fan, and I had to rapidly, we had 7 employees at the time, all full time. We went down to 2, not including me.
Ian, did they get laid off? What
They got laid off, so we just said, hey, this is and even within the South Carolina unemployment, there was a point that said, hey, you're laid off because of COVID. I mean,
okay.
Majority of my business is wholesale, so I had an assistant who was roasting and this and that, and I mean, it literally went from, I think we have probably 50, 60 clients to like 3 in a day. Like they were just cut off, closed down, they had to shut their businesses down. So we're like, oh, well, and so I had to rapidly just say, hey, you're laid off. Here, I'll give you some cash on the side for a little bit. I'll help you with unemployment, da-da-da-da. And then we just kind of sat there for about a week, and we said, okay, what do we do? How do we generate? We still had our retail going. People were still kind of coming in. We have our drive-thru, so that's kind of that was helping. And I was literally just looking at YouTube one day. And in Las Vegas, they said, well, we have a farmer's market that's huge, and we're going to do a drive-thru version of it. And so I was like, watched it, walked out, looked in our parking lot. So next to us is a dentist's office. Of course, they had to close. Next to us is a restaurant. They had to close. And we just had this gigantic empty parking lot. And across from our shop was probably 9, 10 spaces all under trees. So I was like, we have an entrance and an exit. So we all think, like, I'm in production, so and retail, we think about flow of motion. Where's the customer coming in? How they're going to get out? They don't want to run into somebody else. So I was like, well, if you're in a car, you're social distancing, because that was when everything was heavy. So we can literally just put all the vendors on one side, like a drive-thru. We have one. If people want to come through our drive-thru, they can, but then they can circle back around. They can literally stop at all these vendors. So I have a lot of other friends that are much smaller than us that are just really trying to make it. And this is their livelihood. So I was like, well, they can set up booth for free. We'll do it on a Wednesday and a Saturday. Wednesday for people who probably don't have kids and aren't homeschooling them and having to figure all that mess out. And then Saturdays for everyone who just wants to get out of the house, either with their kids or without them. And it worked really good. We were able to kind of garner up to about 15, 16 vendors twice a week. And we did it. We had full support of all of the other kind of people in our strip mall. My landlord it was really kind of funny. He was like, well, from an insurance point of view,
that's my next question.
We don't want to be a part of it. So if we don't know about it, you have I will say it's okay to do, but I'm not going to respond in the email that way. So he called me separately. And so the email was just like, oh, hope everything's great. Never responded to the question. But then he called me and was like, well, you can do that. You're responsible. I was able to pay rent this entire time. Everyone in my strip mall who stopped paying, I was the one paying. So I kind of got a pass to kind of do some stuff that I was being able to, and we were successful enough to at least pay rent and pay our employees. We were able to get the paycheck protection program, which helped. I was able to bring one of the ladies we laid off back part-time. Two of the girls we hired one was in college, one was in high school, and they kind of had to bow out because it was a little bit harder for them to do all their school like from home all of a sudden. And then we had another guy who got another job. So, I was like, and I encouraged him, I was like, get unemployment, but if you can find another job, I mean, landscaping's fine, this and that, go for it. If you can come back, cool. If you can, I'm not gonna mess with you. So stuff just kind of ramped up last weekend, which is great. And we've actually picked up more clients, larger clients that we were kind of courting beforehand. But now, because we're local and present and constantly kind of checking in with them, they were like, hey, you know what? We're just going to switch from this giant national company we've been using, and we're just going to switch to you. So
Ian, did the city or the county say anything? And do you think this will continue?
Well, so it was really kind of funny. So the city deemed, I was right off the bat, I was like, well, I don't know what's essential, what's not. So I called the mayor, Lisa Solka here locally, and I said, hey, am I essential or not? She's like, well, you provide the town of Bluffton with coffee and me with coffee, so I'm pretty sure you're essential. We also did the Hilton Head Fire Department, and so there was like, if you're doing municipalities and you're productive, you have to stay open. You
gotta have coffee.
So that was kind of key in our mindset of like, okay, we're essential. How do we make ourselves now accessible as an essential business? So we did the drive-thru market. Oh, go ahead. We did the drive-thru market. That was just one aspect. So then the next aspect we did is we quickly shifted gears. I was like, all right, well, everyone's going to be shopping online now. They're especially businesses where they have to be at home. So we basically put out a lot of emails, a lot of Instagram posts, and we have an online or a mobile app now for our in-store purchases, but then also on our website, people could order for home delivery or shipping. So we did free shipping anywhere in the United States. We actually had a really good friend that lived in New York that actually had COVID along with a lot of her friends. So she just literally let all her teacher friends know. We shipped probably 30 bags over the course of a couple months up to them and because the roasters in New York were shut down because they just shut everything down. So they were like, well, we can't even get coffee. So we shipped for free a lot of coffee up to New York, the teachers up there that couldn't get it. And then we did in the area, I did a lot of home deliveries. I'm still doing home deliveries. So that was really kind of a transition. We never thought we'd do that, but people were very grateful. They're like, we can't leave our house right now. So how can we, get coffee? We don't really want to have to pay for shipping when it's, you're half a mile away. So you're like, oh no, we'll just run it over to your house. So,
I want to ask you about your app. How hard was that to get developed, and how integral is that into your life right now, into your business life?
So it's actually, we just switched POS systems. So we use a POS system called Heartland POS through a local company called Proudly. So Proudly is our credit processor. And the reason we went with Proudly is that 1% a month of every transaction that we do, that they do the processing for, goes to charity. So we can pick what charity we want that 1% to go to. We actually started, or in the process with another, I'm in Rotary as well. So one of my Rotary members, we're in the process of starting another nonprofit for teachers. So it's basically local businesses can donate money that will then go for teachers at different schools to buy the coffee that they would need to drink to do classes and things like that. We actually we were already supplying through a couple local law offices and a construction company where they were donating basically the money that the teachers normally pay. They were giving it, and then we were taking that coffee or that money and making the coffee and just providing the machine and everything to the teachers. We did Red Cedar Elementary, May River High School, and so those teachers, that was one extra expense they didn't have to worry about. The front of they were just like, hey, we get free coffee and it's donated by this business. So our name wasn't even in it. We're just like, hey, you're getting free coffee from through us from this guy, or you're getting. So we just trying to connect the community. When I started the grind too, just the backstory, the whole idea for having a coffee shop, because that was not the original goal, was to have a coffee shop, was that we wanted a place where the community could come, be safe, collaborate, and business deals could get done, business ideas could happen. We wanted a space that's wasn't too noisy, but wasn't too quiet. So we just kind of created a space that, and my wife will attest, she's come in to study on her own. I'm not even there working, I'm somewhere else, and she comes in to do studying just because the atmosphere is so good for collaboration, for kind of molding of people's ideas and things like that. So when we were working with other businesses and through COVID, it was hey, let's do it at our shop first and let's figure out what we can do. And we've actually, through all the relationships that we now have, I never would have had we even not done the drive-thru market. I met all those vendors, some I didn't even know, and from that, just other vendors met vendors. There's now business deals being done between them that are really cool. From that, we had another organization that was starting up contact us, and they said, we want to do a drive-thru market too on the same day, but we want to do artisan market because the arts aren't really getting anything. So we hooked them up with all our info that we'd kind of gathered over 3 or 4 weeks of trial and error of dealing with telling people you can't get out of your car, you have to stay in your car, it's a drive-thru, things like that. Well, from that, now starting June 6th at a local brewery here in Bluffton, we're actually going to do the first ever night walking market. So I know that's done in Savannah and some other places, but now it's going to be a collaboration with the brewery, us, and this other company, and we're bringing like 50 vendors twice a month, and just giving people the ability to get out, walk around, spaced out.
That's visionary. That's the best pivot I've heard. That is really awesome. You guys are a social movement up there. Unbelievable. Gosh. Well,
yeah, we definitely had a lot of conversations at home, because I think it's a challenge when the way that you do community is in your shop within the facility itself. And then suddenly you're like, okay, but our role is still community. So then what does that look like in light of this? And how do we still serve that? And knowing that this is going to be going on for a while. So for how long do we have to change, or, what would be beneficial to change? So I think we had a lot of conversations about what would that look like and what could that look like and how to still manifest community in this new world safely. So I think that was a bit of a struggle, even giving up the inside of the shop. But I think it's been so rewarding to open up those doors to all those connections between, like Ian said, between all those vendors, between other businesses in the area. And we've helped. I mean, we've gotten feedback of, you've made this connection, we've closed this much business because of you making that connection. And that's all we did. We just made connections, and it was rewarding.
Have you let like the Island Packet or Bluffton now or WHHI know? Have they covered any of these stories?
They covered one of the drive-thru. WHHI covered a drive-thru market one time, and then
awesome.
So
awesome. So let me jump back to you, Kathleen. Do you guys, when you first started the company, did you actually have a vision statement and a mission statement about community?
Yeah, Ian's business plan reflects that. I mean, Ian's always had this idea of basically whatever he's doing is for the success of others. I mean, he says it more eloquently in his business plan and on his resume, but it's been there for years about making others successful. And I have always thought that was such an interesting statement. And it's one thing when you're an employee, but it's an entirely different thing when you're a business owner. Right. And how does that look like? So that idea of serving others and making others successful translated into that business plan. And really, it is about the community, and it's always been about the community. And we love Bluffton. We're a part of Bluffton, and we want to see Bluffton do awesome things. And it's a community at large of Bluffton. It's a coffee culture community. It's an arts community. It's all of these parts and pieces that we want to foster. Matter of fact, the guy that was playing music at the venue or at our drive-thru ended up getting some other home gigs. So he's actually gotten some additional work out of this too, which I didn't even expect. I just expected the Venmo online platform. So it's been really neat to see just the ways that community helps community. And that vision statement translates even in a pandemic.
I mean, look at everybody on the panel right now. 2 business owners helping other business owners, 2 SCORE mentors helping business owners. I mean, you guys, I should take a screenshot. I mean, this is community, and that's what it's all about.
Well, and thank you for having us.
I got to tell you, just listening to
I got
Kathleen, I was just going to say, it's incredibly inspiring. And I knew about what you were doing. I did not know it was in your business plan, this community focus. And I think such an incredible example of how, in this really tough period we're in, how something amazingly good can come out of it. And it wasn't by accident. This has always been on the forefront of what you're about. But this environment is such an environment for this. And what you don't know, and Kathleen, you just used some examples of others who have benefited, but you know what we don't know, which I think is going to be amazing as this plays out, is the ripple effect of the things that you've done and how it triggers so many things. Because, you know, when something good happens to you, you often want to do something for someone else. It's just the way it is, right? And you're triggering a lot of that. And I don't know. I don't have a better word than that's incredible or awesome or whatever you want to say. But kudos to you too.
Thank you.
That's why we wanted to have this story told, is that some people have a feeling that there's exclusion between business ethics and community service, or they do it reverse, right? They start the business and they go, oh, well, I want to reach out to the community. Here's where it started inside and blossoming because of the adherence to their own values. This is a wonderful example for everyone, and it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, and the fruits of your labor are yet to be known, right? And the other thing that really struck me is Ian had said that you even reached out, you made friends with competition in your business. That's like people would say, well, why would you do that? And here now you see why. It's all part of you're living the vision mission of your business. But in doing so, you're drawing people towards you, not pushing them away. It's absolutely wonderful, actually.
So Ian and Kathleen, people can reach out to you. Where is your shop located? What's your website? How can people get in touch with you? Not only to buy coffee, but for this wonderful movement that you've created so far. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we're located kind of right off 278 in Bluffton, right in Sheridan Park. We are, the best way to describe it, I tell people, is we are, for women who are shopping, we're in the same shopping center as Tuesday Morning. So if you know where Tuesday Morning is, we're the exact opposite side of that. We're in an old bank, actually, so an old Bank of America, which that's why we got the drive-thru. And we're right next, if they still can't find us, we're right next door to Sonic. We actually got a relationship with the people from Sonic as well through the drive-thru market. So that was really actually kind of funny as well.
Of course you did.
So the manager will walk over, shop the market, come back. He was like, you know, they were also semi-shut down. So he was like, we can extend this market into our parking lot to help you out, or vendors can park in our parking lot so they don't have to take up spaces. So that was really cool as well. But then also you can find us online. We're thegrindroasters.com. It's our website. We're actually in the process of redoing our website right now. So we really kind of moved into an idea of subscription services for people. So if you just don't want to have to worry about going to the store every week or even having to come into a shop and order, you can just literally fill out a form online, put in your credit card info, and we'll just ship it to you and have it ready for you.
And you can do that with K-Cups, the Nespresso pods, or the bags of coffee.
Nespresso pods, all that stuff. And then email, the best way to meet me or get a hold of me is grindroasters@gmail.com. So, and again, if people just want to ask, I tell people all the time, and we have people approach us. We do a lot of helping people if they want to start a coffee shop, kind of saying, okay, that's a cool idea. Have you thought about all the aspects of it? There's a lot more than what you think just from getting a brewer in this. From, you know, people are like, oh, there's taxes and there's all these other like things that I discovered on the way in the last 4 or 5 years that I'm like, wow, if I'd known all this, I still would have done it, but probably would have been a little more cautious. I know it freaked my wife out when I started the business. I had 12 years experience landscape managing down here, and decided I was tired and worn out, and I was like, all right, I'm going to start this business. And my wife's like, wait, I married a high risk. What? My wife is not high risk investment. She's like, what are you doing? So, but no, she's been very.
I'm white knuckled most of the time.
She does all of our social media posts, and I got in trouble a long time ago for doing it. Occasionally I post and then I get in trouble, and then I don't post for a while, and then
Just leave it.
We make fun. We make fun that he takes all his pictures out of a potato lens.
Oh, what?
Yeah, but we do have an Instagram and we do have a Facebook, and so you can usually follow along with all the fun things that we've got going on. I'd like to say we plan a little better how we do our Facebook and Instagram, but it's more like, hey, this is happening today. See?
That's another key thing that has helped us success is finding good employees and paying them well and rewarding them well. So we have our main one, Addie, if you kind of saw her walk by. She's been with us basically since I started the coffee shop side. So I started the roasting for like a year, and then I brought on coffee in our location, and she's just golden. She's pretty young. She's 24, but you'd think she's in her 30s. I mean, she manages the shop side, the retail side. I don't really have anything to do with that. She deals with all the customers. Only gets me involved if there's, someone's angry about something. But for the most part, she handles her own. She does all the ordering, shipping, budgeting, all that stuff for that side. And we pay them well. So for a long time, I was paying my employees more than I was making. And I said, look, you got to make it. I'm here for the long term. And I know you need to be able to pay your bills. My wife's my sugar mama. So, she was making sure that we could afford our house while I'm like slaving away doing coffee. But the key was just letting them know that like your worth to me in the business is worth this amount of money, and I'm willing to pay you because I know that not only is that loyalty, but that just shows that like, hey, you're worth more than $8.50 an hour. You're worth X, and I want you to like know that the harder you work, that we're going to reward you down the road, and we're going to take you on trips or send you places for training, and we're going to, if you want to, like I told Addison Grace, who's my manager, I said, hey, if you want to go to business school or take some business classes and learn more management skills, we'll pay for that. And she's taken some other classes, just learning some other things in life, but she kind of comes back. She's like, no, this is what I like to do. And so it's just mentoring. I'm able to mentor her. We hired another girl right before this happened that does events. And so that girl wasn't really going to become a barista. She's now a barista. She now does all our events, coordinates all that stuff. I'm also horrible at that. So I handed it off to her. We gave her, just given her a raise, we gave her another raise going into COVID and said, hey, no, this is your deal. You run this now. You come up with the business ideas. If you're unsure, you can run it through me. But if we want you to operate with confidence, working under us, that you can do your job, you can create a revenue stream for the business, and we'll reward you for that. So I think that's key in starting the business, was creating employees and giving them authority to be creative and not having to be like, well, I want to do this, but I got to ask. And it's like, no, just do it. If you mess up, ask for forgiveness. It's fine.
So I realize you guys are still pretty young. Have you thought about a succession plan? Have you, an exit strategy for when the time comes, or?
Not yet. I mean, my goal, and ultimately, we're hoping to do at least this year, actually, coming off of COVID, we're actually hoping to get 2 small coffee kind of kiosk bar set up. So we're working with a restaurant on Hilton Head called Lucky Rooster. He's been my client for 4 years. We're actually starting next month at some point going to be doing a Saturday, Sunday brunch there. But he's going to be doing the brunch, and we're going to be doing a pop-up coffee bar all day. So if you live on the island, you'll be able to come by, get coffee, get brunch, all that stuff. And then we're working on getting a mobile cart so that we can take it out to other areas of Bluffton and basically do a cart that's kind of sort of permanent, but it's made for drive-throughs. So my ultimate goal in the business was to have one set location, several drive-through kiosks around town, because drive-through onlys are less overhead, things like that. And people now really going to this don't necessarily want to get other vehicles, but they want coffee. So a very quick, easy drive-through is because what we're going for. And then we're actually following the model of another company called Blue Bottle Coffee. And they, this is my exit strategy. If I can mirror what they did, they have 14 roasting companies, or they had 14 roasting companies nationwide, just locations. So, L.A., Hong Kong, Russia, well, you name it, they had it. They just had a facility with a roaster and a coffee shop, and then they just sold to other businesses in the area. They had a couple of little pop-up areas. They sold to Nestle 2 years ago for $500 million. So, so that's the ultimate goal, is get it to a point and say, all right, who wants to buy this? We'll take $100 million. That's fine.
I bet you know some score counselors that could help.
Hold out for 800 million. Hold out for 800.
Yeah. Well, we've looked at franchising. We've had people already come and say, we like your brand, we like the layout. What do you think about franchising? So we're, I said, well, let's get through this crazy time before we talk about that. But once we get kind of past this and we kind of figure out the new norms of strategies and things like that, how does that work, and what the standards are for those and things like that. So.
Rod, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, is Ian and Kathleen are talking about all these different business issues and their ideas, how to build a loyal employee force. You sound like future SCORE mentors. So, there's my, I like that.
Hey, I love to talk to people about businesses and what they're doing, even if it's like something I know nothing about, just to kind of run them through what they've thought of, what they haven't thought of, and things like that. So
I mean, it's awesome. You guys are just role models on how to do it right, and you adjust and learn along the way. That's all part of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
a lot of learning, a lot of learning.
Mistakes all the time, every day. Like, oh, well, I'm not doing that again.
But the secret is that you did jump in and you did do it. I've seen so many small business owners that are so afraid to take the next step that they're paralyzed by fear and nothing happens.
Yeah.
You guys did just like what you did with during the pandemic. Create this venue outside. I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Go for it. I mean,
exactly.
Great job.
Thank you.
So we probably wrap up in a few.
I always joke that if I come along a hurdle, I just stop and I look at the hurdle and I try to figure out how to go over what's the best way, and I won't go until I know I can make it perfectly. Ian's like, there's a hurdle. I don't care as long as I'm past it. It might be knocked down. It might be in the other lane. Not my problem.
That's the yin and the yang together. That's what makes
us
go around, balance out each other. That's so awesome. So Ian and Kathleen and Mike and Rod, thank you so much for sharing your stories on Open for Business. This kind of information really helps the small business owner watching. And
right.
And
the grind.
That's awesome.
Okay, everybody, thank you for watching, and we'll catch up with you next time. See you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Marjorie.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.